It has been a long time since I last here. Not very long, really. Well, I have been away for less than a year. Only 4.5 months in Australia. And prior to that, 3-4 months in Taiwan, Japan, and Korea. Prior to that.
Australian accent.
And not quite yet, huh? So, well, this evening, as Chief Reverend has mentioned, that the topic is on the cause of suffering. How should I know your suffering? What is the cause of your suffering? You should know the cause of your suffering. Different people suffer. When we talk about suffering, I think you have already talked or you have already heard about the nature of suffering, haven't you? And you know what suffering is about? What is suffering? Yes, can somebody answer what suffering is? Unsatisfactoriness is suffering, is it? That is another term that we use. Now, let us first take the textual definition of suffering, and then we see the cause of it. We'll just spend a few minutes revising what you have done. Or according to what the Buddha had mentioned about suffering, first he explained suffering. We have to remember that the Buddha was not speaking to a learned audience like you all, no? And after his enlightenment, he went around and in the different, villages, and he did not merely had this kind of gathering arranged for him, but to whosoever came, and he saw how different people having different kinds of problems, he went and helped them out of their sufferings. But when we gather, when we hear his teachings and put his teachings all together, then we get some very definite idea of what he means by suffering and or dukkha. Of course, when you hear of the term suffering, you may think in terms of pain, bodily pain, and or some sickness. But certainly, the Buddhist concept of dukkha, or Buddhist concept of suffering, goes far beyond that. And what the Buddha did was, in his explanation of suffering, he first touched on something which people can see, people can experience. And of course, he ended up with a very deep and very profound answer to what dukkha is about. He first started saying that birth is suffering. You all understand what birth is? Are you sure you understand what birth is? And I think generally we would understand this birth as the birth of a newborn being, like birth. And of course there is also another kind of birth. What is the other kind of birth? Do you know the another kind of birth? How many times are you born in this world? Physically, you have your birth date, right? Once. Mentally, you are born many times. now itself, any time when you think in terms of, when the thoughts arises in terms of I, in terms of my, then that bursts mental level. And we will touch on that a little bit later. So, birth is suffering. Where there is birth, there is also what? Decay. From the very time a child is born, there is decay. The rate of metabolism, metabolic rate increases. Cells die very fast. And of course they are being renewed. And the moment a child, the moment we are born, we are the process of, we die. Little by little. And as a result of decay, we have sicknesses, diseases. And then that is how with decay, disease, what we have, old age. And then eventually death. Birth, decay, old age, or sickness, death. These are universal forms of sufferings that we can see. Whether you believe in Buddhism, whether you believe in religion or not, whether one is a Buddhist, a Christian, or profess any other religion, they all have to face this. It's a matter of degree. Then, what else? It is said that when we are in the company of those whom you love, whom you like, or when you are having certain pleasant situation, pleasant experience, and you have to get out from it, you have to be separated from pleasant experiences or associations, people whom you like and you love. That is also suffering. Yes. On the other hand, you see, sometimes we have to associate with people whom we don't like, or certain situations, certain conditions which are not favorable to us. But we have to live with this situation. We cannot run away from it, at least for the time being. Then we have to face this constant, what you call, sometimes conflicts. That is also a source of dukkha. That is also a source of suffering. And to expect, to desire for things. You expect to get something and you don't get it. That is also another source of suffering. So this is how the Buddha explained. And lastly, the Buddha mentioned, verse 1, Panchupadanakkhandha dukkha. It says the 5 grasping aggregates are unsatisfactory. You know what is 5 grasping aggregates? That is what we all are. What we are, we use different labels, we use different names, we put on different costumes. But when we start analyzing this being, what we are, what we really are, then we will be able to analyze and see that we are made up of these physical energies and mental energies. And according to the classification which the Buddha had adopted, the physical aggregates are considered as one bundle, and mental processes or mental aggregates are divided into 4 bundles of energies. The energies with regards to feeling process, energies with regards to perception, the process of perceiving and cognizing things. That is also a mental process. Then the energy, the process, mental process with regards to thinking or thought formation, mental formation, wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts, or good and bad thoughts in the mind, imaginations, building up concepts, ideas in the mind. This is what we call mental formation, sankharas. Then we have consciousness, awareness, how we become aware through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind, the six senses. So these, and then again we can see, although we divide them into four bundles of energies, they are related. They are directly related and they are connected. That which we feel, that which we sense, that we perceive. What is perceived, that we think about, conceive. We build up ideas, concepts in our mind. And that what we think, we become aware of. So it is one process also. But for the sake of understanding, for the sake of seeing them as they are, as they arise, we divide these into these five bundles of energies. The clinging, the attachment to these five bundles of energies, that is what the Buddha explained as dukkha. And this is a very subtle explanation. It goes very deep in. And now let us consider this mind and body. How suffering or how unsatisfactoriness arises in this framework, this fathom-long body or 5 foot long body. Now when you are sitting, right now when you are sitting, what do you experience now? Some of you who have been sitting for the last half an hour or so, you feel what? Tired, restless, and some people have aching here and there, and otherwise warm. So some people sitting far away perspire, and you feel generally a state of dis-ease. You're not comfortable, you're not contented, you feel dis-ease. Now that is also what we call dukkha. That is also manifestation of dukkha. The feelings, whatever feelings and sensations that we have, when we cling to these feelings, sensations, then we cling and we think that it is that we are experiencing, that I am experiencing this warmth and discomfort. When we think we feel, when we think I feel, then that feeling belongs. That is how, when unsatisfactoriness arises, you feel unsatisfactory, you feel the pain. But the pain, the feeling belongs to no one. It's there. But because we are unable to see the nature, we are unable to observe the nature, we attach this idea. My body is painful. And then there arises this. So, feeling, perception, and thoughts, ideas we generate in the mind. Wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts. When there are certain good, pleasant objects we have, we cling to it. And you cling to it, you want more. How long can you cling to that object? Any object. And the happiness that people derive, when people talk about happiness, the opposite of suffering. What do they mean by it? What do you mean by this happiness? When you are able to please your eyes, your ears, your nose, the tongue, the body and the mind, then we become happy. When you are able to see something nice, something pleasant, and you feel a sense, a pleasant kind of feeling. How long? It does not last. After watching a good show, a very exciting show, after that what do you do? You're not satisfied. And what do you do after that? Normally people after watching cinema, after good cinema, are they contented? They go back home and sleep? No. They go to the restaurant. Or they go to the Glutton Square. And now they start pleasing their what? Tongue. Body. These things. No? And in the process, now it goes on one to the other, one to the other. And we see that all these various things that we cling to, they are changing. They are subject to change. Whether it be human, animate or inanimate things. The friend which we call a friend, how long do they remain the same person that you think of? They change. Their minds change. Their attitudes change. Their responses change. The things that you have with you, cars, clothing, houses, they are all subject to change. Now these very things are changing. As they are subject to change, and as we are attached to these things that are changing. And because the transient nature of this, so this is where unsatisfactoriness, because we want to please ourselves with things that are subject to change. How long can we do it? And that is how we see the unsatisfactoriness, even of what you call happiness. Of course, that is the kind of happiness which most people refer. They refer to the happiness that they derive through their senses, through worldly objects. But there is another kind of happiness that does not depend on worldly things. That is the happiness that you get within you. And this happiness we don't really, when we use the term happiness, I was pointed out when I was in Australia, some people say that when we talk about happiness, we talk about a peak, there is a peak. And where there is peak, there is also fall. Whatever that arises will fall. So when we would prefer to use the term peace or contentment. When the mind is contented, there is ease in the mind, and there is no peak there. Or there is peace of mind, the quietness within you. And this is the kind of happiness that when we look in quietly. And of course, those who have learned how to sit down quietly, observing their mind and body processes, and they can find their minds, when their minds are at ease. Of course, it is not for long also. But the further one trains one's mind and to see the real nature, to observe the nature of both mental and physical processes, then the mind can become steady, can become stable, strong for longer periods, until eventually the mind is able to see what are the real culprits, what are the real cause of sufferings. We say that the sufferings are due to craving, clinging. Where there is craving, there is clinging, there is attachment. Craving to what? What kinds of craving? We talk about craving with regards to the senses. Kama tanha, craving to please the senses. Then we talk about the craving for existence. We cling, we crave for existence. What is this craving for existence? Well, actually, most religions also teach that after death there is life hereafter, isn't it? And some people want to exist forever. Some people want to be born in a happier plane of existence. And some people, males, when they are men, they don't like, they say they want to become women. When they are women, they don't like, they say they want to become men. They want to carry on. And some who knows that, who having heard how in the heavens there are angels and there are what you call devas living there, they want to join them there. And others think in terms of Brahma, the great Brahmas, and they want to be born in those realms of existence. They want to exist. And we can see this, the manifestation of this craving for existence when we observe a dying person. You see how much there is the desire to live on, not prepared to pass away. Now this craving, this is what you call the craving for existence. We can again talk about craving for existence in terms of becoming. Becoming what? Now, small child, recall your childhood. When you were a child in school, what do you want to become? You want to aim to get high marks, score, become top in the class. When you are top in the class, then what happens? Are you happy? Then there is the fear of going down, losing that top position. And then as you progress further, you have that ambition to become what? You have certain professions. Some want to become doctor, engineers, lawyers. And you work for it, work very hard for it. You become that. If you have that strong mind and again you think about it, yes, you become that one day. And when you become that, now that amongst you have your professions, you are teachers, nurses, and engineers, lawyers, then what? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? You want further promotion. Then you are promoted another. You get the promotion. Then what? Are you fully satisfied? Is there satisfaction, happiness, contentment? No. One becomes some more. So this is a process of becoming. And this is a form of craving. Of course, don't say that you might ask this question, in that case, should we have any ambition at all? Ambitions, worldly cravings are very important to live in this world. And so it is when one begins to see the nature that when we crave for this amount of craving, we have to face. We have to pay the price for this. And then we can decide for ourselves, we can choose how much we want. That is why the Buddha's path, or the Buddhist path, the middle path approach, to be moderate. And when one is in moderate, then one begins to see, one is able to consider the pros and the cons and steers. Now, on the one hand, there is the process of becoming, the craving for becoming, the craving for existence. On the other hand, there is the craving for non-existence. You don't want to exist. There is another kind of craving. Now, people, after they have spent their times living to a certain number of years and work, and they cannot satisfy themselves, then they say, enough, I don't want to exist. And some people say, I don't want to be born again. They don't want to exist. With this thought in mind, that is also craving. And they experience dukkha. And we can see that another angle, people don't want to become. You don't want to become like that. You don't want to become like this. Now the idea of don't want to, dislike these things, that aversion to becoming, that is another form of craving. Then what? Cannot, you may say, to cling, to please our senses, suffering. Craving, suffering. To exist, suffering. Not to exist, also suffering. Then what is right? How? That's where, and now what is the Buddhist goal? What is the ultimate goal? To stop what? Birth. To stop birth. Can you stop birth? How you stop birth? Depends what kind of birth, isn't it? Physical birth. How do you stop this process of what you call rebirthing? There is a word called rebirthing. Born again, again and again and again. How you stop that? How to stop this? To stop craving. How you stop craving? Develop your mind. Develop yourself. Yes. How you develop yourself? Make the body big. Yes, some people in the process of developing themselves, their self become big. Okay, then mental, that self, that I become very big one. Is that right? That self, you see, we use these terms. We have to develop ourselves. What do we mean by developing ourselves? We develop our minds. For what? We develop our minds so that we can read other people's thoughts. We can fly, we can float. We can walk on water and go through walls. And perform some magic. Produce things, what people want. Develop the mind. Now, that is also another kind of craving, isn't it? So what is the Buddhist attitude towards development, mental development? At Nibbana. Now we come to this. What is Nibbana then? What Nibbana? You see, some people have this idea that Nibbana is not to exist. No? Yes. Nibbana is a blissful state. Now, the term Nibbana, the most what you call a common definition that we can give is nirvana, no craving. When there is no craving in your mind, what do you experience? When there is no desire, there is no desire to please the senses, and no clinging to things outside, and clinging for inside also. How do you experience that? Have you experienced that before? No? Sometimes you have experienced it, but you are not aware of it. Of course, there are moments where there is no clinging. When there is no clinging, that moment, you see, when we say this word clinging, it's a very subtle thing, you see, and we often cling to thoughts. We cling to certain thoughts or events of our life, the experiences we had in the past. We cling to things that has not yet happened. What is going to happen in the future? We think, what is going to happen in the future? And this is what, people do. They cling. They say they project themselves in another 5 years' time. And then, this is what, they live in the future. They live in the past. But they forget to live in the present. The present moment just pass like this. And suffering, dukkha. And why do people quarrel? Why do husband and wife quarrel? Parents and children quarrel. Brothers and sisters quarrel. What is the cause of this quarreling? Why do grandmother fight with grandchildren? Mother-in-law fight daughter-in-laws? Why? The what? Rising of I. Very good. And it seems you know the cause now, You suffer? No. And she says directly, says that, the rising of the I, the big I, and my. When you think in terms of I and my, we use this term. What I have mentioned, we use this term conventionally. But in reality, when you start analyzing yourself, where is the I? Where is the my? Is there something that you can say I, my? You start analyzing. Analyzing yourself, start by picking up the hair of the head. Put it on the table, hair of the head. You can pull up all, and you laugh, but I think tomorrow some of them will be doing that. If you can come and see what they do, you see. And then you can remove the hair of your body, all the hair on your body, put one side, right? And then after that you scrape, what else? The skin, is it? Put your skin on one side, the nails, the teeth, and then go a little bit deeper. When you remove that, you see what flesh, isn't it? Flesh, and then the veins, the nerves, the ligaments, the tendons. Just start them and put one side, and bones. Those who eat chicken, and some people not sufficient the chicken. They take the bones inside. They say very sweet, the bone marrow. You take out the marrow also, and you arrange them nicely. And then you see which one is I, which one is mine. You start analyzing and you see this is the body. And this is what we call different proportions. There are different proportions, slightly different colors, Some hair long, some hair short, some hair curly, some hair straight, and then we use different label. We use this is Daisy, this is Pansy, this is David, this is Mahinda. But what is it? Where is that? If we look carefully and the mind analyzes, there is nothing there. Is there something that is permanent that you can call this is I? No. And because we are unable to see it like that, we build up this concept of I. We build up this concept of self. And when this self, we pump this I self loaded up, the bigger the self become, the I become, the more the suffering is there. You see? And you begin to think everything in terms of I and mine. You see? So when the mosquito comes on your nose, the light is, what happens? You get angry, isn't it? I did not give you landing rights. Pop! You get angry. My nose. But, we are sharing this body, we are sharing with many other creatures, no? You believe? With whom do you share this body? Yes. There are a lot of worms inside. In the Buddhist text, I think they mention about 80 kinds of worms. But it's not, some got round ones, some got flat ones, some got, And some, of course, they have bacteria and in your, what you call, a digestive system. They are good ones, no? But still they are sharing your body, no? See? Now, if we can understand this much, then we can see this body is not mine. Are you the real owner? Are we the real owner of this body? If you are the real owner of your body, if you don't like certain part of your body, can you throw it away? Or if you don't like, oh yes, it is possible, you don't like the nail, you can cut, isn't it? But let us go a little bit further. And now if you don't like your hair, you can throw it away, like what we do. And if you go a little bit deeper, you don't mind the feeling, the painful sensation that you get in the stomach when the stomach is hungry. Can you say, get away? Of course you say you eat something. Okay, then what about the pain that you experience after sitting for a long period of time? You don't like that sensation. You say, go away. Will it go? But the pain, the cause is there. It's a bodily cause caused by your body. And if you are the owner, you should be able to say, get out. Now, the cells are dying. Every moment, how many of these cells? Hundreds and thousands of cells are dying. As I am talking to you, how many cells die? And as you are listening like that, you know how many cells die? Put together, hundreds and thousands dying. No? And you say your hair is growing, but it is dying. What we are looking when we see one another, you see the hair, dead cells. Body, dead. Skin, also dead. Do you see living skin? No, the outer surface is dead. The nails, you see living ones? Which is the nail that is the part that is alive? It is the bottom part, you don't see it. What you are able to see it, you are able to see only dead cells. Of course, you color them, no? You make them look good. And so what we really see is physical framework. They are all dead things. And we say they are very beautiful. You see? Now this is how the beauty, the question of beauty arises in the mind when the mind The whole thing, we take as a whole. When you observe it as a whole, then you get the notion of beauty. But when you start analyzing and say, where is it? And now this is how, when you speak about development of the mind, in order to remove craving, there is what you call craving for the body. You have craving for this body. Now, it's because of our craving for this body, to preserve this body, that arises fear. The fear to die. Fear arises. Suffering arises. Now, when we see these things, the nature of the body, if you can see it in its proper perspective, then there is just these processes arising, falling, arising, falling. Whatever that arises has a nature to arise, to originate, has a nature to cease. And when you watch this again and again, then there is once clinging, once the tendency to cling, to crave to things becomes reduced, becomes lessened. Because you can see it that anything, if you see that something is constantly subject to change. If you want to buy this piece of cloth, tablecloth, and then the salesman come and tell you, this cloth will change, if you keep it for some time, this black patch will become brownish, and then after that it will, and this also will tear. It tells you what the process of change. And then, will you buy? Will you buy these things? You won't buy. But if he tells you this is going to last 20 years, your lifetime, only $1, you will buy. No, we see those things. The moment you see the impermanent nature of things, then your grasping, you'll begin to lose hold of your grasping process. You see? And this is how. Now, in other words, to overcome, to reduce this craving, what is needed is now to develop the mind. And how to develop this mind? When we talk about mental development, we are really talking about the purification, to remove certain defilements. When you pick out the dirt, purify the mind becomes strong. Just like gold. When you mine gold from the fields and you get the gold ore, when there are impurities there, it is not so easy for you. You can make it to a gold bar, but it is not strong. It's not the tensile strength. You cannot make it into your brooch. But when you purify the gold, it becomes very strong. You can make it into very thin things. It does not break. So similarly, the mind too, when we begin to remove these defilements, and what is defilements? Craving. The opposite, craving, hatred, aversion. When there is a lot of craving or there is a lot of aversion, you can also see the mind becomes confused. Confusion arises. Can we really remove them? Can we remove the greed, the hatred, and these things? No. We use the term, we use this language to say that we remove them. But in reality, what we do is we observe, we see it as it arises. The moment you are able to see your anger as it arises, and you notice, sharply notice this, clearly notice it, it goes. We use the term, we use this language to say that we remove them. But in reality, what we do is We observe, we see it as it arises. The moment you are able to see your anger as it arises, and you notice, sharply notice this, clearly notice it, it goes away. It is because the mind is not alert, the mind is not able to see it as it arises, then it stays on, it lingers on. When it lingers on, then it conditions, because this itself, this anger itself, is a condition to other defilements. It strengthens other defilements. Then all the other defilements they arise. They cloud the mind is not clear. Just like the dirt that comes. When some grease comes to your glasses, your lenses, that's not the end of it. That grease will attract some more dirt there. And it becomes thicker and thicker. But what we do is, we clean this lens, we clean the lens. How do we clean the lens? Oh, there are various brands of what you call products that you can get in the market to clean the lens of your eyes. But how do you clean the lens of your mind? The mind's lens, to be able to see things clearly. Can you find in the market any product, any brand, any soap to clean your mind, anything to swallow? Shortcut, not so easy. And this is the thing. But there are a few brands in the market. They are called, some people call mind dynamics, some people call mind development, some people call mind control, some people call alpha training, some people call, but they all deal with the mind, But we have to be very careful with these kind of brands, No doubt, they teach us to use the mind, to use and to develop. But, again, developing this mind for what? For more power. You become powerful, you become good personality and powerful, you can attract people and you can gain more power. Now, this builds up more craving. Now, on the other side, when we talk about, when we use this mental development, what we really mean is the developing the mind through the process of purification. When you begin to purify the mind. And when you purify the mind becomes bright, the mind becomes luminous. Then you use this light within you. Now, all religions actually, will speak of the light within you. But how they interpret this light within them, and how they use this light within them. Some just stop at that. When they see light, they say they have seen everything, they say. They say that light, because what they have learned, what they have heard, they say, this is God, light. This is my soul, I have seen this light. And stop there. That is just a process where the mind becomes clearer, but we use the brightness inside, to watch, to see, observe, watch. Watch what? Watch what this being is about, the mind and the body, and how it functions. Watch the nature of this. Then you begin to see the true nature of it. And when you see the true nature of it, you see what? Change. Everything is changing. What is changing is subject to unsatisfactoriness. Anything that changes is subject to unsatisfactory. And what is changed and satisfactory, there is no real substance in it. So we come back to this. That is where when we say understanding the true nature of existence, we really understand these things. We understand change as change, impermanence, transiency. We understand unsatisfactoriness. When you see this, you also see that there is no such thing as a permanent entity, which we often refer to as the I and my. And some refer this to as the soul, which is a permanent entity. So, seeing this, in fact, the question of the I, that my, that is the root cause, in fact, of all human problems, of all human sufferings. I asked you the question just now, why? What is the cause of all the different conflicts that we have in the family, in the society? What is the cause of all these problems? Children between parents and children, between husband and wives, between teachers and pupils, all the conflicts that they have. If you just look back and see what happens, you will see one person hosts at home. Your mother has learned from her grandmother one way of cooking, one way of preparing certain delicacy, certain dish, or say cook rice. But you have learned to cook rice in a different way. And you try to put the pot this way. Your mother sees this way and says, no, it's not this way. This is not the right way. And she tells you, you must cook this way. But you say, I have learned it, I have gone to classes. And she's a domestic science student. She has learned how to cook rice in the, and she says, this is the way. So they argue. And now in the same way we see all these various things. And how to cut the fruits. You have one way of doing it. Another person has another way of doing it. And you say, my way, this way is right, that way is not right. Then quarrel, argue. All throughout we see. And when we maintain this strong idea of I am right, others are wrong, dukkha arises, suffering arises. At any time when you get hurt, when somebody provokes, and sometimes as parents you think, look at my children, I have done so much for them and they are not this is what they give me. They answer back, they shout back, they don't respect me. Then parents feel hurt, says, and look inside you. Look inside. And when you see it, these things, and when you begin to see that this pain, the pain that arises, and it comes from your building up this idea of I and mine, you see. And when you begin to see it, immediately the pain goes. But if the mind is not strong, the mind again clings to that idea. Constantly these things come. So the training actually, eventually the Buddhist training is to develop, to cultivate, to purify the mind, and so as to be able to see the true nature of existence, the true nature of life. When you begin to see the true nature of yourself, then you see there is no self. When you see there is no self, then there is no clinging to the self. Then there is pain, there is feeling, unpleasant sensation, sometimes there is pleasant, there is feeling, but there is no feeler. There is suffering, but there is no sufferer. There is suffering going around, there is pain. If you watch the pain. But don't cling that pain that this is your pain. The moment you cling to it, my hand is pain, then you feel that your hand is painful. But if the pain is there, you just observe the pain, feeling, oh yes, that's feeling, comes and go. No reaction, don't react to it, don't get to these things, and it goes. And that is how the Buddha advised his disciples. The Buddha says, when your body is ill, when your body is sick, don't let your mind become sick. And now, in order to live this, we see that even those, the Buddha, even those who are enlightened, as long as they have this body, their body is subject to change. And they are subject to see they experience certain painful sensation. But those who have developed their minds, purified their minds, and those who have seen the true nature of their existence, and they don't cling to this I, to this mind, then they are free. Their mind is free from suffering. Because they don't cling to this body, they don't cling to this existence. You see? So whether they have food or not, whether they have, to them, it does not matter. You see? Of course, to come to that stage, that is the goal. So the teachings of the Buddha does not merely say to give up and to detach oneself from all worldly things. Now, this is a means. We detach, we give up from in the indulgence of our senses, so that we can strengthen the mind. Because when we indulge in all these 6 bases, then that mind, which is one of the base, is diffuse. It's just like this. Now, when you open your eyes, you start to see things and you hear, all the senses, you sort of diffuse. But when you close your eyes, now you cut off the distractions from the visual distraction, you will experience your ears, the sound becomes more sensitive. Your ears become more sensitive. Now when you do not take notice of what you hear, then you look and you see, you become more aware of the thoughts that arises in your mind. This is how we slowly direct, cut off these, what you call restrain the senses, in order to develop, in order to strengthen the mind. The mind needs to be strengthened so that it can remain stable, so that it can remain equanimous. So that when the mind is equanimous, it can see things clearly. You see? And that is how we can put an end to craving, to clinging. So, now, I think you may have some questions that you wish to raise. And there are many other things, many other causes, conditions that you can think of that give rise to suffering. But when you finally analyze them, you will come to this root cause of it. You see? Let us try. If you have some other causes which you think are bothering you, let us bring up and see. Yes. Now, what is this enlightenment about? This enlightenment is the ability to see the true nature of things, right? When you see the true nature of things, you see that they are subject to change, and you see change, right? Now this phenomenon of change is permanent. Now you are dwelling, your mind is now dwelling on a permanent thing. That what? What is the thing that is permanent? The law, the nature of change in all component things is permanent. That is why those minds which dwell on the transient nature of things, that sees, he looks here, he sees change. He looks here, he sees change. He sees outside, he sees change. Right? So, it is permanent. Change is permanent. And that is why we call Dhamma. That is why we say Dhamma. We say truth is permanent. We define, what do we define by truth? The truth means the true nature of life, the true nature of existence, the nature of change, the nature of unsatisfactoriness, the nature of insubstantiality, the nature of soullessness, the nature of no substance, not there. That is permanent. The mind that dwells on this is a permanent state. Yes? Now, what is this enlightenment about? This enlightenment is the ability to see the true nature of things, right? When you see the true nature of things, you see that they are subject to change, and you see change, right? Now, this phenomena of change is permanent. Now you are dwelling, your mind is now dwelling on a permanent thing. What is the thing that is permanent? The law, the nature of change in all component things is permanent. That is why those minds which dwells on the transient nature of things, that sees, he looks here, he sees change. He looks here, he sees change. He sees outside, he sees change. Right? So, everywhere, it is permanent. Change is permanent. And that is why we call Dhamma. That is why we say Dhamma. We say truth is permanent. Now we define, what do we define by truth? The truth means the true nature of life, the true nature of existence, the nature of change, the nature of unsatisfactoriness, the nature of insubstantiality, the nature of soullessness, the nature of no substance, not self. That is permanent. The mind that dwells on this is a permanent state. Yes? Right. Yes. That's why I told you that we cannot really get rid of all the define. There's nothing to remove. If you say you remove, then become empty, no, blank. And that is why we also use the term empty. Empty your mind, right? And those of you who have read very philosophical treatises about voidness and emptiness of mind, actually we refer to the emptiness of what? The defilements. The mind is emptied of what? The emptied of greed, emptied of craving, desires, emptied of hatred. It is emptied of ignorance. That is it. That is a truly empty mind. But the empty mind does not mean to say there is nothing. There is no thing. Not nothing. No thing. When you say thing means something that is, something that exists, something that does not change. The static thing. Nothing and no thing is different. No? So try to experience nothing. And this is what, in the Dhamma, Buddha says that nothing in this world is worthy of clinging. Nothing. is worthy of clinging. Now you ask, anything that you see that is worthy of clinging? Yes.
What happened to the mind? Never mind.
Yes. Any? Why not? If you think it cannot be attained, then you cannot attain it. Why? Now. Try. Now. You can free your mind, can't you? How? You see, now we can free our mind. The thing is this, the mind is so caught up, you see, it is in a habit of thinking. It is in the habit of clinging to our thoughts, clinging to our sensations, clinging to what we perceive, clinging to our body, constantly clinging. And how to free this mind? What we do is, we take one object. To develop the mind, to purify the mind, take just one object. That is what the basis of Satipatthana Sutta. Take one object. Look at it carefully. Develop that one. Which one? If you want to develop your mindfulness on the body, there are different aspects of mindfulness on the body. And one of the most common aspects is to look and to observe your breath. Breathe in and breathe out and just observe your breath. One thing, you observe your breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, you just observe your breath. There are different ways of observing your breath. Some people will observe around the tip of their nostrils. Some people will watch the rising and falling of the abdomen. Some people watch, other parts of the body, their breath sensation spots. But they just look at one. When you see this one thing, you breathe in, then your mindfulness, your awareness with regards to the feelings, sensations will be there. Also, you will become aware of the state of your mind. The thoughts and other things that arises in your mind, you become aware of it. You will also become aware of whatever Dhamma, the objects that arises in the mind. You become aware of it. So when you observe one thing, then all the other objects will also grow. When you try to do many things, then no. The object of Satipatthana Sutta, mindfulness, the practice of mindfulness. If one truly practices mindfulness, one can be free from suffering. The thing is this, when we are drinking, when you drink, people are drinking, you just drink. But how many people, when they drink, they actually drink? When they drink, what they do? They start thinking of what? Cooking. Or else they start thinking of going home, but they are drinking. Are they drinking or are they going home? When they are washing dishes, what do? Just wash dish. But they are preparing coffee or tea. Their mind is thinking about the coffee, the boiling pot, boiling coffee. But they are washing their dishes. And they are thinking of catching bass. No? So while they are doing this, their mind is doing that. So what are they doing? Is there mindfulness? There is not the oneness of your action. If you just do that one thing, and you will enjoy washing dishes. You know, some people, those who are, you see, the husbands and wife, they are married and they have kids. And then the husband says, after getting married, I have no time for myself. I go back after work, after so many hours. My wife wants to talk to me. I have to spend some time with my wife. Then after that, the kids, they want to play certain, what you call games. I have to play with them. Where have I got the time for myself? Suffer. Because they think they have no time for themselves. But if they learn to live, right, the time that they spend with the wife is their time, isn't it? Whose time is it? The time that they spend with their children, try to be one with their children, no? Don't try to, no? Now often I have, when you reflect, when you see these things carefully, you see that we also do these things, While we do one thing, then we are thinking, what about that? I have to do that. So this is where we do this one thing, then we cling to some other thing, craving arises. Then we suffer here, then we suffer there. We are neither drinking, nor we are not driving, nor going this. When some people are driving, they are already at home, preparing the bed to sleep. When they are sleeping, then they think of the car, polishing the car. See? The practice of mindfulness, satipatthana, try whatever you do, just do that. Just be one with that action. Right? Then, of course, when your mind is alert, it does not mean to say that you do this one thing and then that's it, you keep on doing that. Next thing, you have to do some other thing, your mind just shift from one to the other and just do that. Yes, you see. And people, actually, the teachings on Satipatthana Sutta is so practical. Very practical. The mindfulness need not only confine yourself to sitting down and watch. This is actually the intensive moments when you begin to develop and strengthen your mind. When your mind is strong, you come out and then whatever you do, you exercise your mindfulness there. And when there is mindfulness, there will be consideration. The mind becomes flexible. Then you begin to understand. You not only understand, you understand the worldly conditions also. There is one discourse which I also often mention, also the practice of mindfulness, because most teachers talk about mindfulness, they talk the breath and, feeling, the four foundation of mindfulness, right? Now, there is also one part when the Buddha talk about mindfulness, Buddha explained how a cook should practice mindfulness. And this cook happened to be serving the king. And the Buddha told this cook, be mindful. I says, how? You think the cook breathe in, breathe out? Be mindful? No. Buddha says, this is how you should practice your mindfulness. When you serve the food, after cooking, you serve the food, observe what the king likes to eat. Which one he takes, which one he does not take. That is how you should exert your mindfulness and be aware what food he likes, what food he does not like, so that you can prepare what he likes. In that way, you will get your promotion. You will be successful. It's a very practical way of practicing mindfulness. No? Do what you do. These things. So don't think only practice mindfulness. There are different times, but you take one object to strengthen the mind, and then after that, you use it. When your mind is tired, when you are tired, you come back again to that one object. It is just like building a house for your mind to reside. Your body resides in beautiful houses, isn't it? But what about your mind? You have not built a house for your mind. The mind is wandering all the time. There is no house, there is no shelter. We need to build shelter for the mind. And how to build a shelter for the mind? The mind needs to reside at certain places. Where? Up to you. You can recite your mind here when you breathe in, breathe out. Recite. Keep your mind there. Once a while the mind goes for a walk and then bring it back again. And if you want to go sightseeing or you want to go for vacation, now why not you take your mind from here to the Metta lodge, Metta house. You recite your mind in Metta. What is Metta? When your mind thinks that, may I be free from aversion, may all be free from anger, free from hatred, may all be happy. There is metta there. And if you are not satisfied, you get bored, then why not you move on to another house? What house is that? Karuna, compassion house. The house of compassion. Very beautiful house. When your mind resides, when your mind thinks, when you see people are suffering, you wish them that they be free from suffering. You see some people who are handicapped, you wish that they be free from that suffering. When your mind resides in this, with this thought, that means your mind is residing in the house of compassion. When you see other people who do good actions and they are happy, you become happy, you rejoice at the happiness. When you see others are prosperous, others are successful in life, you share the joys with them. Rejoice when they are happy. Then that mind is residing in that house, what you call mudita or sympathetic joy. And also that mind, after wandering from metta, karuna to mudita, then you can take a rest and keep your mind in equanimity, balanced mind. Because when you try to help others, sometimes they don't respond to your help. So keep your mind equanimous, equanimity, balanced mind. That is another house. These are the 4 houses. In case we have forgotten, you have forgotten to build these houses for your mind, now you can start. And build one house, start one house, construct neutral house. Just by the tip of your nose. You can always bring your mind here, very useful. Or else, around any part of the body that is more sensitive. Take that. And then you can send your mind. But the trouble is this, today people want to go, they want to send their mind from house to house. From country to country, they say astral traveling. And why not, you see? We want to go out, yes, but we also must have one house there. So build this house and firm, make the foundation strong. When the foundation is strong, then, can go far and come back again to this. Yes. Right. You see, this is the trouble with philosophy. You see, there is individual mind, there is universal mind, there is good mind, there is bad mind. Be careful, we are using words, Yes. And there is also one mind. And there is the pure mind. Some people fight with this, some people say one mind, another one says pure mind, another says Buddha's mind. And, you see, we have to, when we use these words, then we build up certain framework, certain reference. What do you mean? When you say individual mind, what do you mean by this? When you say universal mind, what do you mean by it? You mean to say all the mind can convert into one and become universal? No. According to the teachings of the Buddha, the mind is this. When we speak about the mind, we say that process. It is that process which gives rise to the ability to feel, right? To perceive, to think, to conceptualize, and to become aware, to become conscious of things. Now this is what we call the mental process, the mind. And how do you become aware of things? We have to say you yourself, I myself become aware of things, right? So that we call the individual mind. But there are certain philosophies that says that, you see, the mind, there is universal mind, the universal spark from which all the other small minds come. And eventually all these minds go up and form a universal mind. Well, in Buddhism, we also speak about the unity of things. Unity, oneness. When there is mindfulness, there is absolute mindfulness, there is awareness. Whatever you do, your mind is there. You are one with the action. That is the kind of oneness we talk about. And when you are one with nature, you see change. And you are changing, this process changed there. You are one with it. You begin to see that the animals, whatever animals, they are born, they also grow old, they will also die. When you look inside, you also say that I have been born, I am growing old, I will also die. We are one. In that sense, we are one. We have common, we share this commonness there. So it is when we begin to see the true nature of things that we become one with nature. No? But we should not think of becoming one in the sense of, all congregation unity in that sense. No? And good mind and bad mind. We say when there are good thoughts, we say good mind. When there are bad thoughts in the mind, we say that bad mind. No? So there are different times, different moments, the mind, different stages, different phase, different states of mind. Yes? Any other questions? No? Well, if there is no other question, then we can announce this, that tomorrow we will be having what you call the preliminary of the novitiate program, and the shaving ceremony. And if you like to see how people can give up their hair and how you cling to your hair, you can come and see. And you can come to see how other people experience when they lose their hair. They're so happy, bright, and things. And you may also, want to give up, And when you keep the hair like that, you see, a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, a lot of worries, isn't it? When the hair starts falling off, worry. And then, when the hair get thickened, worries. When those who have black hair becomes white, worry. And when you remove them, you remove all your worries, no? Wise people remove all those things, you see. And you spend a lot of your time, energy, money on that, no? So this is what you're going to experience tomorrow, no? And after that, then on Sunday, those of you who wish to see, to witness the ceremony and the ordination ceremony, and you are welcome. It's at 9 o'clock, and only for 2 hours, I think 1.5 to 2 hours. And then hereafter, from that time until for the next 2 weeks, we will be having nightly discussions, and with the novices and the upasikas, and you are also welcome to join in, no? And of course, we will be testing them, and you can also ask questions, and we can test you also what you know. Yes. Yes. So, for the next 2 weeks, and those of you who do not have time, you may like to come on the last day, the last day where you like to offer dana, and you see the monks go out with their bows, and yes. So I think with this we shall conclude here, and we wish that your interest in listening to Dhamma, and may by this interest that whatever things that you are able to accept, try to practice it. Whatever you cannot accept, never mind. Don't rubbish it for the time being. Don't reject it also. Keep it for a later time so that you can look back. Because when you talk about I and my, sometimes, it's very difficult, no? And it is true. And if you look closely, you see where is this, and if you can really see these things, then you see you're free from suffering. No? The moment you begin to see it, that moment that suffering, the headache goes away. But the moment it comes back again you suffer. So the clinging to the I and the mind, that I, cut it off. Yeah? And the beautiful, only you must understand certain symbols in its proper perspective. And that is why the Buddhists bend down. You see a lot of bending down the next few days. Because there is the I, bend it, cut it down. Then this I bend down. Then you lose the idea of I, my. Then less suffering, no suffering. And here and now, not later, here now you can experience the thing. And don't believe you bend down to, and right. We wish that may you grow in wisdom and compassion, and come back, and then in whatever way you are able to serve, in whatever way you are able to help, you are most welcome to participate in this. And I understand when I came that I heard a recession period has hit very hard, and our poor ladies are not able to collect sufficiently for the dana. For those of you who like to participate in these merits and come, join, you can. Lord, how many days? 14 days, not completed, isn't it? More. Yeah, you got a lot of opportunity to give dana. The more you give, the more you receive. When I was in Canberra, one man who was actually selling some what you call curry chicken and and in the late night after my talk, I went there and see him, and I see how he gives people so freely, He's not a stingy seller, he gives them so much and they're so happy. And then I asked him, how can you make like this? He says, the more I give, the more I get, you see. And you see how people come. Hi, George, they say, come. And they get more customers. And then he says, he's a very simple man. He says, you see, Reverend, you see people, in the farm. The more they milk, the more milk they get. When they milk the cow, the more they milk, the more milk comes out, And, simple man, simple philosophy, but very beautiful. And he's so happy, so contented. He says, 17 years he do these things, but he's happy, he says, And beautiful. But when you go to the university, Buddhist philosopher, lecturer, teach very high philosophy, but, do not know this simple thing, and then become very angry, very sulky, very sad, and, full of Buddhist thoughts. But right. Yes. So action, what you know, try to practice. When you practice, you will realize. This is the nature of the realization of truth. When you practice what you know, then you realize that. So may you all one day, sooner the better, may you all realize the place of Nibbana all at one time. Good health and peace to you all.